Good news can often get overlooked or buried by the negative in our everyday lives. So let's change that. I'm Adrianna.
And I'm Wyatt.
We're just two ordinary people without any special qualifications or anything, trying to navigate life. We invite you to join us as we share wholesome stories, news articles of hope, and ideas about how we can all make the world just a little bit brighter. We are Uplifting Positive Stories. Welcome back to another episode of Uplifting Positive Stories. I'm super excited for today's episode. I know I teased ahead last week a little bit, but today's got some pretty crazy stories between Reddit and some news articles that I found. So I'm very, very excited.
And you've been teasing it to me personally for a bit too.
These stories are kind of wild. Like I legit, when I first read a couple of these, was like, that can't be real. But then one of them was verified as real from what I can see. So yeah, I'm really excited to go forward with going through these stories. So today's theme for the episode is living with integrity and doing the best you can even in an awkward, bad situation. So we're going to start right off with our Reddit story of the day, which comes from the thread, what's the most wholesome experience you've had? I've read off this thread quite a bit for this podcast in particular. So
just a couple times.
Yeah, it's got some really good stories. So here we go. This story says, back in 1992, I was 10 and went to Disneyland with my parents. My parents were poor, but saved for 3 years to make this trip happen. They went all out. Nice hotel, family dinners at restaurants. We almost never ate at restaurants, and souvenirs. When we went back to our hotel and the front desk let us know that our request was fulfilled and to pick up our package, we had no idea what they were talking about. My dad opens this large envelope and there's roughly $20,000 of cash and travel vouchers in there.
Huh?
My dad was blown away, but we had no clue what was going on. Turned out, a soccer team, can't remember what country, was staying at the same hotel, and my dad had the same name as one of the organizers of their trip. He returned all the money and told the front desk it wasn't his. They apologized profusely. The next morning, we were getting ready to leave when we got a knock on our door, and there was room service. It was one of the largest breakfast displays I had ever seen as a kid. Plus, it was my first room service experience. The team had sent a note thanking us for our honesty, as we well could have run off with the money. They gave us a voucher to get into Disneyland early, something completely unknown to us, and they paid for an extra night stay and all of our meals. That day was magic. I'll never forget how much fun I had that day.
Dang. Well, I thought it was going to take a different turn when you were saying that a bunch of food that was delivered to them. I was thinking that was like, oh, this
did it happen again?
It's just gonna keep sending stuff to the wrong room. It's got to keep saying no, like this isn't for me. It's just like a constant test of like your integrity. Like,
what's your line?
Like, how many times does it have to happen before you just like, okay, sure, this is mine, but I'm gonna that's the sketch. That's the SNL version of this, you know?
Right? But yeah, $20,000 of cash and travel vouchers. I can't even imagine. Like, to open an envelope and just find that? Oh my word. But yeah.
I'm curious as to why. Like, I know it's a soccer team, but dang, like, that's crazy.
Oh my word.
Is this the story you weren't sure if it was true or not? Or
no, there's another one that's kind of similar to this one that I was kind of like, I don't know if this is true or not. I actually found the next story a few months ago when I was looking for stuff for this podcast, and I didn't put it on here, even though I was kind of like, this is an interesting story to share, because I wasn't sure if it was true. I'm trying to vet my articles as best I can to make sure that they're somewhat legit. And this next story is about a TikTok that went viral. And I know that a lot of fake things can be spread on TikTok just to get views. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't sure if it was real or not. But then the article literally quotes the manager from the restaurant from this news article. So I was like, okay, this is actually legit. So,
But really quick, what would you do if you were handed an envelope of $20,000?
I would give it back, but I would just be kind of shocked, to be honest. I would never, I don't know.
I would assume it was like not real or like some kind of like trick of some kind.
Yeah, I would just be so confused. I mean, just to get handed an envelope with that much cash. I thought that was a good story, though. A good example of somebody doing the right thing when they could have just walked off with $20,000. So,
I feel like someone could have found you.
Yeah. I love that the kids in this story had such an amazing time with all the amends that were made. You know, it kind of just it made their experience even more magical. So by doing the right thing, they still got an extra little bit of magic out of their day because their dad did the right thing, you know? So that's kind of cool.
And they learned a valuable lesson. It's not about what you can get away with. It's about doing the right thing.
Exactly. So the next story is very similar to this one, maybe a little less drastic, but still kind of crazy. This article is from the Indianapolis Star, and the title is "Do Good, People. Man returns $5,000 to Indiana McDonald's in viral TikTok."
Okay. So, returns for what? How much food they order at one point or get a refund for?
This is wild, okay? So this article was originally written because there was a TikTok video that got over 2 million views, which this article is from January of this year, so it's probably got more even since then. But this guy named Josiah Vargas was going through the drive-thru to get a sausage McMuffin, and in his McDonald's bag was $5,000 in cash that was handed to him through the window.
What is with these people being handed cash? Like, what is going on here?
So the video is of him in the parking lot with small plastic bags of cash that he pulled out of the bag. And to quote the article, in the video, he says, "Why would you do this to me? Do you know how bad I want this money?" And when he went inside, to quote the article, he said to the workers, "You guys laundering money out here?" Turns out it was the bank deposit that had been put into a McDonald's bag, and it ended up getting misplaced and then was handed to him through the drive-thru instead of his order.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Can you imagine the workers, how much of a heart attack that would be? Oh my gosh.
That's like everyone would be fired. That's not one person's screw up. That's an entire team's worth of screw ups.
So again, I was not sure if this was real or not when I first saw it, because there was a few articles about this situation that I saw circulating, and I didn't know if it was real or not, or if it was just going off of this guy's word from the TikTok. But this article, to quote it, says, "Josiah's actions are an inspiration to us all, and we are eternally grateful for him returning our bank deposits," store owner Estefan Awad told Indy Star in a release statement. So he released a statement, which kind of confirms, I'm assuming, that this is real. In exchange, they gave him free McDonald's for a month and $200.
I mean, depending on how much he buys from McDonald's,
get that big for your book.
That could be more damning than the $5,000.
A lot of Big Macs, a lot of sausage McMuffins.
I'm surprised that they were willing that they gave a quote to the media. You know, like I feel like that's something that a lot of businesses would keep hush hush. Like, oh, we didn't almost do that. That's crazy. Like, no comment. You know, like.
Right. Exactly. But I mean, good for them to be open about what happened and try to make it right by giving this guy something to make up for the fact that he was handed $5,000 and gave it back. Mm-hmm. The workers also, to quote the article, said, "This is a blessing from God. I really want to give you a hug," one of them said when he came in the video to give them the money, because I'm sure they had a heart attack. But yeah.
Well,
my thought was, why was the money in a McDonald's bag to begin with? But then I was thinking about it, and I was thinking maybe that's like how in that store they were like transferring it or something between like the till and the thing to keep it under wraps, not just carrying plastic visible bags of money. I don't know. It was just interesting to me.
The conspiracy theorist in me is like, oh, someone actually did intend to steal the money, and they put it in a McDonald's bag to sneak it out, and then somehow got mixed up and actually given to customers. The entire plan was ruined by this mistake.
I would hope that's not the case.
That's I don't think that's the case at all. That's just that's the conspiracy version that belongs on a different podcast.
Conspiracy theories. Funny.
But it does give me like a life rich goal that if I was rich, it'd be fun to, like, if money was no object, just sneak $5,000 cash like that into a bag like that, and then like, well, just to see if they bring it back, and if they bring it back, but like, you've done well. Here's $10,000 as a reward. So you're doing the right thing, you know.
That's like those videos. I get fed them a lot in my Instagram reels, where it's like, someone goes up to somebody and says, "Can you buy me a soda?" or "Can you buy me this for like $50 or whatever, and if they do, then they're like, you know what, actually I'm a successful business person, here's $1,000 and blah 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 blah. And like, yeah, it's just like a trend going on. I've seen so many videos like that of people like, if you do the right thing, I'm gonna give you double what you gave me, and blah 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 blah. So
I wouldn't do it for social media though. I would just do it for my own entertainment / like feel good for other people, you know.
Which, to be fair, it is cool that they are doing that, even if it is for the views. It's still cool that they're giving people money and free stuff to be kind. So either way, it's good. But anyways, moving on to our next story. Like I said last week, we have 3 articles today. So we're going to keep on rolling here. The next article is kind of wild. This one is from today.com. And the title for it is How an Owner Got Her Diamond Ring Back 13 Years After Flushing It Down the Toilet.
I think this happens a lot. Like,
it does.
I've heard enough stories, even just locally, of like rings getting lost and then later recovered like decades later, you know.
Which is crazy. When with something that small that they are recovered at all is wild to me. The story is from Minnesota. There was a woman named Mary Strand who, for her 33rd wedding anniversary, got gifted a ring by her husband. And one day was flushing the toilet and it slipped off her finger and went down the drain completely. Like, she wasn't able to rescue it. Over a decade went by, and one of the employees at a plant found the ring in a bunch of debris. And so then the Metropolitan Council put out a social media post saying, hey, I don't know if there's any chance, if anyone's going to be able to come forward for this, if they even remember that this was lost. Who knows how long it's been lost. But we found this ring if anyone's looking for one. Eventually, 2 local jewelers went through and looked at the photos of the ring, and they found a match between one they had sold 13 years ago to her husband, and was able to find her contact information and get the ring back to her.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we got 2 different levels of people doing more than what is at all required of them in their job to do. No one asked them to do that.
Right.
You know?
It was so easy for them to go, oh, that's a bummer for whoever lost that. And like that's the end of it. But they went the extra mile to put out those social media posts to try to find the owner, and they did. And obviously it meant a lot to her, being a 33rd anniversary ring and a gift from her husband, you know. So I thought that was really wholesome, really cool that they did that. I like you said, I feel like I've heard a lot of stories like this in our area where people have lost a ring and people have found it and then returned it to their owner. But
I mean, it might literally be the story that I was thinking of, you know, it being a Minnesota-based story. I'm pretty sure this might have been the story that was circulating in the local outlets and stuff. But, you know, I feel like it's pretty common, you know, to lose a ring, you know. It's not as common to, like, necessarily find it again.
Right. Exactly.
Lucky it did. Lucky. Well, it's not even just luck. Again, it's people, like, going above and beyond, 2 different levels that didn't need to necessarily do anything, but they did anyways.
Yeah, to help somebody out. That's awesome. The last story for today also comes from today.com, but it starts off because of a Reddit story that went viral. And we're going to read that right now just to give some context about what this article is talking about, as it's more of like a follow-up to said Reddit story. The story for this is from the thread Today I Effed Up. And the title of it is, Today I Effed Up by Donating $15,041 to a poor community in Bangladesh instead of the $150 donation I intended. Story says.
Couple zeros missed, I'm pretty sure.
Story says, this happened in February of last year, but my friends have been telling me that I need to post this story online, so here goes nothing. My wife and I, both 31 years old at the time, moved into a new 3-unit apartment building in San Francisco. One of our neighbors is a 70-something-year-old retired veteran. We'll call him Joe. For context, Joe is a white American guy, and he's also a devout Hindu priest. One day, I run into Joe in my hallway, and he tells me about this charity he manages for a community in Bangladesh. I wanted to support my neighbor and the charity, so I asked Joe to send me the GoFundMe link. The next day at work, I go on the GoFundMe page and donate $150. Or so I thought. Moments later, I get a text on my phone warning me of an unusually large transaction on my credit card. I'm confused and I swipe open the text. It says I have made a payment of $15,041 to GoFundMe. Immediately, I am sweating. How could I have donated $15,000? I spend the next 10 to 15 minutes retracing my steps, and finally I realize my credit card starts with the numbers 4 and 1. It seems I had accidentally started typing my credit card information while my cursor was still in the donation box, and just like that, 150 became 150.41. Yikes. I call GoFundMe's support line in a panic, and when I finally connect with a human, I explain what happened. No need to worry, he tells me. They will initiate a refund of the transaction, which should process in 3 to 7 business days. That's a huge relief. But then I ask the agent if the charity will be able to see the donation on the GoFundMe page until it is refunded. What do you mean? The agent asks me. What do you mean, what do I mean? Was my response. Will they be able to see the $15,041 donation? Unfortunately, yes, the agent tells me. They will be able to see it until the refund process is complete. I tell him that is a big problem, as the entire GoFundMe had hardly raised that much at that point. Surely they will notice that their fundraiser doubled overnight. My plan was to knock on Joe's door the following morning to give him the full story so that he could pass it along to his contacts in Bangladesh. But when I woke up the next morning, I looked at my phone and saw I had 40 plus notifications on Facebook. Someone had sent me a friend request, had liked many of my old posts, and had sent me many messages. Immediately, I was concerned when I saw that the individual messaging me had a Hindu name, but I never could have imagined what I saw when I opened his first message. The man had sent me a video of himself from Bangladesh, surrounded by dozens of impoverished and hungry people holding bags of food, thanking me by name, Michael, for my generous donation. A big round of applause for Michael. At this point, I've leapt out of my bed and I'm pacing. Part of me wants to scream, part of me wants to crack up laughing. I start swiping through the man's messages, and it's picture after picture after picture of poor Bangladeshis thanking me for my kind donation. Literally hundreds of photos of frail, elderly, disabled, and malnourished individuals holding signs with my name. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael. I've uploaded a portion of the video and a few photos for you guys to see here, and then there's a link. Needless to say, I couldn't live with myself just donating $150 after seeing how the community responded to the $15,041 donation. I decided the least I could do was to add a zero, and so I donated $1,500 once the original donation was refunded. The charity's host was incredibly gracious and understanding, and he explained to me that $1,500 goes very far in Bangladesh for urgent food relief. Here is the charity's new GoFundMe link if you want to check it out, and then he posted that link. Ultimately, I think the whole experience was a win-win. I helped a great cause, and I got a funny story out of it.
Oof. Just that a roller coaster, you know? Like I imagine you'd feel every single emotion in that moment, you know? I'm sure there was a large part of him that was like, maybe not a large part, but a part of him that was thinking about ways like I can afford the $15,041, right?
Right? Oh
right?
My gosh. Especially after getting like messages and videos from people thanking you for that. Oh, I would be so sick to my stomach.
I feel like, and I know I could think of a few people that could fall into this category, but I feel like there's a lot of people that honestly would rather just take the L and maybe take out and go in debt than have to face this like honestly, awkward situation.
I don't know what I would do. Like I honestly might try to find a way to take the L and make it work and just, yeah. Because,
set up a separate GoFundMe to help correct my screw up. Help desperately need $15,000.
I screwed up. Can you all help me? Oh my word.
And then the people would comment in the GoFundMe like, oh, like, why didn't you just like contact them? And like, well, here's the thing. They'll know. And like, it'll be too awkward to face. It can be $15,000. But anywho,
I can't even imagine. I would be sick to my stomach.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but that'd be so nice to do as well. You know, that'd feel so good to be able to donate that much, but also you can't donate necessarily what you don't have.
Yeah, right? So the article has that Reddit story in it, but then it goes forward to tell what happened after that story went viral. So because he linked the GoFundMe, the fundraising money just started pouring in from Reddit viewers that read this story and wanted to help contribute. And we know that it was because of the Reddit posters that read the story, because they actually, a lot of them told the organizer of the fundraiser that Reddit was the thing that brought them there. This story, this article, was written in June of 2023. So as of then, they had over 2,800 new donors from across the planet.
Donors or dollars?
Donors.
Oh,
and
dang.
It has over $118,000 in donations.
Dang.
It's
way more than the initial donation.
Right. Another thing that helped boost it was a very popular YouTube channel called Smosh Pit, which we are big fans of. We watch them a lot.
Admittedly, we have heard this story before on Smosh Read Stories, which they read weekly on Saturday. It's a fun tradition for us. But yeah, we've heard the story on there before.
Right. So to see this follow-up was really cool. They had read this story, and because of that, it kind of got another boost on the Reddit threads because it was being popular again. And people were commenting.
I think they even, if I remember correctly, I think they even included the GoFundMe link itself, like into their video. I think because they were so blown away by how much traction, how much had been raised, like
already,
through this Reddit post. You know, like let's get it even higher. You know, like so they're just blown away because again, it's at that point even it was already so much higher than his initial screw up.
Right, exactly. So to see that after the viral post, that they raised over $118,000 after his original mess up donation was only $15,000. So they raised $100,000 more that he originally messed up and donated. But this was also a year ago that this post came from, almost exactly a year ago. So it's very possible that there might be more donations than that. But this is what it was at the time of the article being written. And then to quote the article, Michael says, "The guilty feelings never quite went away when the donation went from $15,000 to $1,500, but it certainly has now. The online community more than covered for me, and now I feel so proud of this whole story."
You see, a lot of times, you know, the internet can be a cruel, mean, sometimes disgusting place, but sometimes it can really galvanize and do something incredible, even if it was born from a screw up in an incredibly awkward situation.
Right? And the crazy part to me is that the organizer, when Michael originally went forward and said, I'm going to have to change it to $1,500, I'm so sorry. The organizer told him that $1,500 still goes a long way in helping those people. So to think that they got $118,000, how much help was that to them? You know, if only $1,500 means a lot, how much is that helping? You know, I just thought this was a perfect example that if you mess up or you make a mistake, having that integrity to come forward and be honest about it can sometimes work out all the better.
Mm-hmm.
Because he could have very easily just have not said anything to the organizer, changed it, and like that be the end of it, and you know nothing happened. But because he was honest about it, you know, he came forward and told him, hey, it's gonna be $1,500, I'm sorry, to the organizer, and then went forward and wrote this Reddit post being honest about what happened and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did this crazy story happened. Because he came forward, was honest about all that, and told his story. Look at how much good came from it.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously he couldn't have predicted something like that would happen. Who would have thought this would happen? But you never know.
No, you can't really, you can hope maybe, like in your wildest dreams, you can maybe hope that. That's what it would be my wildest dreams at least. And like, oh, maybe it'll do something, you know, but like I mean, who thinks when you screw up that's going to actually like turn out even way better
yeah.
than it would have been before, you know?
Right, exactly. Do you have any stories of any moments where either you had to do the right thing or you knew somebody that had to act with integrity in the moment and ended up working out for the best?
I mean, the easy one that's like a common one, I feel like, especially when you're younger, is like we have Perkins and stuff up here, and you're like a lot of times you're supposed to just pay at the register on the way out. When I was younger, I'd like forget sometimes, not often, but because in most restaurants you pay at the table, you're with your friends for a long time, and then you just kind of walk out, and I realized you haven't paid, and I stopped myself in the parking like, oh crap, and then turn around, run back in, and then pay, you know, like no one stopped me, like no one was like, hey, get back here, or no one chased me with a pitchfork or anything, but I was like, oh crap, I didn't pay, and then like turn around and just race back inside, like, hey, here's the money.
Heart attack moment.
It hasn't happened to me, fortunately, in a long time, but I know it happened to me a decent amount when I was in high school / college, you know, yeah, the teen young adult era.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't think of like off the top of my head screw ups that led to something way better than the screw up, you know. Most of my screw ups are just like screw ups that were like, okay, it was actually okay, you know, like it's all right. Nothing's ruined. like it's all okay. It's all okay. Not like, oh, it's actually like way better. I'm sure they're like, if I really sat for a long time, I could think of something, but the easy one is the Perkins. What about for you?
I guess one story that I have, it's not even anything profound, but I was very surprised that this person did this because they easily could have done anything else. There was a $100 bill that was laying on the floor of the movie theater that I worked at, and some customer found it. And instead of taking it, because it was just laying on the ground, they very easily could have pocketed it. They brought it to the front and were asking if anybody had reported any money lost from their wallet. It wasn't even a wallet. It was just a $100 bill. We hadn't, but we worked out a deal where we held on to it with like a Post-it note of when it was found and where it was found. And that way, if someone came up to us and was like, hey, I lost some money, have you guys found any bills laying around or anything? Then we would return it to them. And then after a few days, we ended up calling them and gave them the $100 that they found on the floor. Because, I mean, it was, somebody's, we don't know who, and they never came forward for it. But yeah, I thought that was really cool because, again, they could have very easily walked away with it, but they didn't. And that happened a lot where people would bring in, because in dark movie theater, people lose all sorts of things. Keys, wallets, phones, literally anything you can think of, we'd find behind the seats. And so seeing a lot of even customers that would come up and say, hey, I found this little wallet, or I found an ID, or I found whatever, and coming forward. There were so many that would get turned in. So it was really cool that people were honest and would turn them in instead of just trying to pocket stuff.
Yeah, I was always surprised to see how many people actually brought stuff back in and stuff,
Right, yeah. It's good to see people doing the right thing, so. Living with integrity and doing the right thing oftentimes, well, it'll relieve you from having guilt on your conscience in the long term. But then B, also, sometimes, like in these stories, sometimes really good things can come from it in the long run. So.
And even if they don't, you still should do it,
Do the right thing.
I didn't get any rewards for paying my Perkins bill. That's what I'm just supposed to do.
No consequences.
That's fair. There were no consequences by doing that.
No, do the right thing, even if no one's watching, and you could easily get away with doing the wrong thing. Because again, you put good out there, good things will come back to you. So yeah,
like a doing good boomerang.
Exactly. So with that, we'll end this podcast. Tune in next week for another episode. New episodes drop every Wednesday. And if you have any crazy stories, fun stories, uplifting stories, any kind of stories that you think are worth sharing, please feel free to email them to us at upliftingpositivestories@gmail.com. Or you can also share them on our Facebook page. You can join our Facebook group at Uplifting Positive Stories. Thanks so much for joining us, and we hope you'll tune in next week.
And stay positive.